Greetings, my fellow scholars of the Lifestream. I'm Visuazad from the Cosmo Canyon Observatory, and in today's analysis, we'll dissect the weapons upgrade to the core. But before we start, let me catch you up on some content and schedule changes. In short, after trying different alternatives to get content out faster in order to be able to keep up and work through my enormous backlog, I ended up settling for a sustainable weekly upload cycle. Those videos will be similar to the scripted and edited ones you were all here for, just created differently. There will be less cool effects and transitions, but the deep and detailed analysis will remain. Conversely, analysis live streams are on hold for the time being to make as much room for recorded videos as possible. With that out of the way, I thank all of you who are still supporting me, like JohnRun2000, who upgraded to a student, and Hafdor Imsland, who is the second patron to rise up to the Nanaki tier. Thank you guys so much for your fantastic support. If you want to join the Scholars of the Livestream Elite as well, check out the links in the description down below. Alright, enough dilly-dallying. Let's go upgrade some weapons! Here's the very beautiful looking upgrade weapons submenu. Dare I say it? I called it! Back in Game Analysis episode 15, where we analyzed the equipment and material submenu screen, I was already talking about weapons upgrades due to the different color of the Buster Sword. Turns out my gut was right. I also predicted the weapon model in the middle, though that was pretty much a given, so I won't brag about it. Anyway, on to the analysis. The layout is pretty much the same as in the equipment and material submenu, with the vertical menu name, playtime and skill at the bottom, and the general placement of the individual elements like weapon list, info of the selected element, and a separate preview and info window. We also have the character switcher on the top left. Specific to this menu screen, however, is the weapons level display, which is almost at level 4, and it also has a half-transparent cloud behind it. Very nice. Though what is still bothering me is that the playtime and the guild funds still overlay the commands menu in the background. Why can't they make it just invisible when calling the main menu? I just don't get it. It's so messy down there. Anyway, there's also the menu help text in the middle saying select a weapon to upgrade. Press triangle for a list of automated settings. Which kinda makes me curious. More on that later. On the bottom right we also have the button help with R3 sorting the weapons list, which is currently ordered descending by SP. Other sorting possibilities might be name, rank, stats or weapon strength, maybe upgrade progress in general? We'll see. Speaking of the weapons list, it shows all weapons currently in Cloud's inventory. At the top we have the Iron Blade, which is a completely new weapon and has 3 single slots, similar to the Force Stealer and the Apocalypse, but probably without the AP multiplier. Then we have the Hard Edge, probably the second most popular weapon in Final Fantasy VII, just behind the Buster Sword. However, it is 1 material slot short. And then we have our good friend Nail Bat. I'm so glad it made it into the game, as did many other fans too. And it still has no material slots. Why would it? But it probably has double the strength as the Buster Sword. Speaking of, it has still only 2 linked material slots, probably equipped with a fire and an elemental materia. Underneath the weapon icon, we see an empty progress bar, which is missing on the Buster Sword entry for some reason. Maybe because it's selected, and the weapon level below displays a more granular progression than just a puny little bar. And this little C on the left probably represents the rank, which is missing from the other weapons, because we still haven't started upgrading them. The weapon level mentioned before is also quite interesting. It's represented by a beautiful circular progress bar divided into 5 segments, bringing the maximum level to 6. And according to the numbers, we're 5 points short to reaching level 4. The numbers on the left seem to represent the progress for reaching only the next level. When we gain 5 more points, I assume the display changes from 55 of 60 to 60 of, let's say, 100. Which makes it similar to a normal experience points progression meter, as seen in most RPGs. But what is still unclear is if that weapon level is specific to each weapon or describes the general weapon level per character. But let's dive into that a bit later. In the middle portion, detailed information of the currently selected weapon is displayed. Similar to the equipment and material menu, there's the icon and the name of the weapon, the 4 derived stats it will increase upon equipping it, which are comprised of attack, defense, magic attack and magic defense. Underneath that, it shows the ability inherent to the weapon. In this case, focused thrust. We also see a bigger version of the available materia slots, complete with materia if equipped, And of course there's also a description, which says, a large broadsword that has inherited the hopes of those who fight. Inherited the hopes, the clear connection to Zack, as he used the words hopes and dreams quite a lot. And Cloud also inherited the Buster Sword from Zack upon his death. Furthermore, Those Who Fight is also the official name of the battle track from the original game. As mentioned before, we see a 3D model of the selected weapon. I hope we can use the left analog stick to move and rotate the weapon around. Maybe even use the right analog stick to zoom. On the right, it gets pretty interesting. Above the ability window, we see the 3 currently available upgrade cores of the Buster Sword. The 4 sub-cores of the first one have already been fully upgraded, while the second one is still empty, and the third one only halfway done. As mentioned before, I think each weapon only inhibits one ability, since it doesn't look like there's room for more. Anyway, in addition to the name, we can watch a beautiful preview video of how the ability works. Now comes the most interesting part. Proficiency feature. In the official PlayStation blog, it's described as the following. Each weapon has its own unique weapon abilities that increase in proficiency the more they are used. When an ability proficiency level reaches the maximum, that ability is then learned by the wielder and can be used when wielding any weapon. So this is practically the same concept also used in Final Fantasy IX. Instead of gaining AP to master an ability, we just need to keep using it to max out proficiency. But the Final Fantasy VII Remake has an additional feature, proficiency bonus. In this case, if we stagger our opponent by using focused thrust, we gain an additional proficiency bonus, which is quite nice. Alright, let's move on to the next screen. And this one took me quite by surprise. Looks beautiful. Maybe a little bit too busy. Anyway, this is the screen that appears when pressing X on the lists on the previous screen. We have the main detail information of the weapon on the top left, and the available upgrade cores on the top right, just like before, with the difference that we can switch between them. But wait, what's this additional materia slot doing there? Buster Sword has only 2 linked materia slots. Well, thanks to the official PlayStation blog, we know why. It says, here, we see Cloud's Buster Sword upgrade screen. The different options allow you to improve the wielder's status or increase the number of materia slots available. Now this has me pumped. Is it just 1 slot per weapon, or even more? This really changes the importance of the individual weapons. Anyway, moving on. Currently, the first core is selected, which is already fully upgraded, as seen by the lack of required SP at the bottom, and also because all 4 cores are lit up by light. Big one in the center, and the 3 satellite cores orbiting it. What I kind of find confusing is the Buster Sword core label. All 3 cores belong to the Buster Sword, why is it specifically called Buster Sword core? On the other hand, the description is quite interesting. Growth materia encased within the Buster Sword. Use Cloud's skill points to unlock skills and enhance the weapon's capabilities. So an upgrade core is comprised of different growth materia? Neat! I'm just wondering how it got in here. Do blacksmiths insert them deliberately? Or do they automatically grow by continuous fighting, absorbing the Lifestream of defeated foes? Speaking of Lifestream, swirls around the cores heavily remind me of it. So to sum it up, we have multiple upgrade cores for each weapon. Each upgrade core is comprised of several growth materia, each granting a skill to enhance the weapon. In this specific case, as seen in the skill list to the right, we have attack power plus 5, magic attack power plus 5, max HP plus 100, and a boost for strong attack damage when attacking the enemy in Punisher mode by 5%. And I assume the last one is granted when unlocking the big growth materia in the middle. Bright bullet points in front of the skills probably indicates that they are learned. Like the aforementioned illuminated growth materia, which we can also see on the other cores, 1 on the left and 4 on the third core in the back. Menu help at the bottom is also pretty straightforward like before. It says spend skill points to enhance your weapons. However, we currently can't spend any more, as seen in the top right with the grayed out 1. The numbers 6 and 8 below the cores probably represent the skill cost of the individual skills inside, so any amount of SP below 6 will be displayed in grey. In the bottom right, we have again the button help. Using the right analog stick will allow us to zoom in and out, while the R3 button resets the camera again. It's weird that it says reset camera and not reset zoom, which leads me to believe that we can still use the left analog stick to move and rotate the cores around. Speaking of cores, L1 and R1 are used to switch between the cores, which will probably move the camera between the individual cores. Alright, that's it for the overview. Let's now try to find out how exactly upgrading works. Like in many other games, we need to spend points to upgrade our stuff. In this case, we need skill points to unlock weapon skills. There are a certain amount of skills per core. In this case, it's 4 skills for core 1 and 2, and 6 skills for core 3. And it also looks like we have stat boosts and 1 special skill per core. In core 1 of the Buster Sword, we have the Punisher mode boost, and in the third core, probably the additional materia slot. Why? All 4 growth materia are highlighted in the first core. There's also green Lifestream emanating from the central growth materia, as opposed to the other ones, but we only see a faint purple light. The left core has only 1 satellite growth materia illuminated, which corresponds to the second core, only having 1 of 4 skills unlocked. The central growth materia also lacks light, and there's also no Aurora Borealis effect underneath, which tells me that it is not activated yet. We can also see 2 more growth materia shrouded in darkness. And the third upgrade core further back has the central growth materia and 3 satellite growth materia illuminated, corresponding to 4 out of 6. We can also see 2 more growth materia shrouded in darkness, representing 2 locked skills. Looking at the Buster Sword stats, we see that it has 43 attack power and 35 magic attack power. However, in the previous screen, both attack and magic attack power are at 35. And we also have 1 less skill learned in core 2 and core 3 respectively. Which means that either this singular skill in core 2 or one of those in core 3 provides an attack power bonus of 8. As the Buster Sword's base stats probably lie at 30 attack power and 30 magic attack power, with both +5s in core 1 increasing it to 35 and 35, and another attack power skill raising it to 43. Now, what's still up in the air is the skill progression. Is it linear per core, or just up to the player? Linear would mean that we can't choose which skill to learn first within a single core. But I don't think this is the case, as I have evidence against that. In the linear scenario, the central growth materia would be last, in this case, the Punisher mode boost in core 1, and the additional materia slot in core 3. However, core 3 is unfinished, but already has the central growth materia activated. So it seems like we're able to pick and choose whichever skill we want to learn first, which is how it should be. But how does the navigation work? I think that by switching between individual cores, we get to see the full skill list of each core, telling us which ones are still locked or already unlocked. Then by pressing X, it probably zooms in even more, and then allows us to select our desired skill by switching between the different growth materia using the left analog stick. Then pressing X again will spend the SP and learn the skill, possibly with a security prompt in between. Remember the automated settings feature? For newcomers or lazy people, I think the game will let us choose which skills it should prioritize. Physical or magical stats first, offensive or defensive stats first, maybe even special skills first, or maybe prioritize costlier over cheaper skills, or vice versa. I think there will be quite a slew of settings. But me personally, I will learn everything manually, because I'd like to have full control over my character's progression. Alright, let's now try to find out how weapon levels work. We still don't know how to gain SP, but we do know how SP on weapons increase. For some convincing evidence, let's look at the weapon levels. SP received acts like experience points that goes towards a weapon level. As seen here, we have already amassed 55 SP, which is evidenced by the unspent SP on the Iron Blade, Hard Edge and Nailbat. However, the Buster Sword has only 15 SP, which indicates that the player has already spent 40 SP to learn some weapon skills. When we look at the Buster Sword equip screen again, we can see that core 2 and 3 have an individual skill cost of 6 and 8 respectively, which sets the SP cost per skill of core 1 to 4. That's the theory anyway. If we take this as our basis, we'll see shortly that the math checks out. Calculating the spent SP brings us to 54 SP spent in total. Adding the single unspent SP to the mix, we end up at 55. When going back to the previous screen, we see that this number matches up with the previously acquired SP. If we do the math again on this screen here, we have 4 times 4 SP plus 0 times 6 SP plus 3 times 8 SP, which equals 40, the exact amount that is missing from the Buster Sword. My conclusion is therefore that the player entered the second screen here with 15 SP left, spent 6 SP on core 2 and 8 SP on core 3, which tallies up to 14 SP, the exact difference between 15 and 1 SP. We also know which 2 skills have been learned: attack power plus 8, which increases it from 35 to 43, and the additional materia slot, which is visible here, but not in the previous screen, where the Buster Sword's attack power is also still at 35. And since we know that the central growth materia has been activated for Core 3, which most likely represents the additional materia slot, the single growth materia activated in Core 2 must therefore be attack power plus 5, which is represented by this fiery crystal. Core 1 has also one growth materia of the same shape, granting attack power plus 5. Green one with the swirls around it is probably increasing max HP by 100, which you can also see in Core 3. So the third one, the red illuminated mist, has to be magic attack power plus 5. There's also a similar one in Core 3, but it looks more like a black cloud surrounded by red light, which I think increases max MP. Alright, let's return to the weapon level. The big question I posed at the beginning, if the level or progression is the same for all weapons, or different for each individual weapon, is still unsolved, so let's try and tackle this one. But first, let me throw some other questions in the room. Should all weapons be usable throughout the whole game? And what are the differences between the individual weapons? And do we eventually feel the need of discarding all the weapons? Essentially, does it work like in the original, where we obtain and buy better and better weapons and discarding the older ones? Or, which is what I'm hoping for, that each weapon has its own use, strength and weakness. Which means we will switch weapons depending on our playstyle and on the enemy. This way, weapons can also double as materia loadouts to account for different situations. This makes the Buster Sword having merit during the whole game, not just in the beginning. And I really hope that's the case. Now, as already established, SP received gets added to all weapons equally. But to prevent later weapons to be maxed out too quickly or have them already maxed out when obtaining it, weapon level progression must be different on each one. Because if every weapon shared the same level after having maxed out the Buster Sword, each one of Cloud's weapons in the game will also be maxed out, which doesn't make any sense at all. So I propose the following. Each weapon we receive will have a higher SP requirement to be maxed out. In case of the Buster Sword, we will reach weapon level 6 after collecting 150 SP. Why? Because of pixel measurements. It's not entirely accurate, but according to my calculation, we're looking at 30 SP between level 3 and 4, and by reaching level 4 with 6 SP, we know that leveling up to weapon level 3 also needs 30 SP. Considering linear growth, this means 10 SP to level 2, 20 SP to level 3, 30 SP to level 4, 40 SP to level 5, and 50 SP to level 6, totaling to 150 SP. Now, let's say we get the Iron Blade next. For the sake of simplicity, let's double the max SP requirements. This would mean 20 SP to level 2, 40 SP to level 3, where we're already at 60. So when the Buster Sword reaches level 3, Iron Blade would have only reached level 2 so far. And let's say the strongest weapon in the game has a max SP requirement of 10 times the one of Buster Sword, it wouldn't even be at level 2 with 60 SP. But for the sake of argument, let's say only the equipped weapon gains SP. This would mean that weapons we currently don't use just won't get better, which will end up in a huge grind fest, where we probably end up using just a few weapons. This would also diminish the positive effect the individual uses and strength each weapon has, which would be a shame. The menu layout also tells its own story. Weapon level progression is placed on Cloud himself and underneath the list of weapons, not within the detailed information area of the Buster Sword. Neither is the weapon level displayed in the individual weapons upgrade screen. And I also don't think those 55 SP are by accident or by developer settings. And while the weapon level itself is not the same for each weapon, the SP progression certainly is, which is why it's probably placed on top of the character image. Anyway, after all this talk about the weapon level, what is it even for? My best guess is that the weapon level equals the number of available cores. Here, the Buster Sword is at weapon level 3 and has also 3 upgrade cores available. The weapon level can go up to 6, as we've already established, and when looking at the core display, it also has room for 3 more, 6 in total. This means that earlier weapons will be upgradable faster and later ones slower, which isn't a problem at all, because by the time we receive it, we would already have gained a few SP and maybe 1 or 2 levels, which makes new weapons much less of a pain to level up. And remember the rank I've mentioned in the beginning? The weapon level could be tied to the rank. Buster Sword is currently on rank C, while the other ones haven't been upgraded at all and therefore don't have a rank. So if each weapon gains a rank for each completed level, we would end up at rank S on level 6. However, there's also a different option. What if the rank is tied to the amount of completed cores? The Buster Sword has only one core completed and stands on rank C, which means it starts on rank D, which is probably not visible, and then rises up to rank B, A, S, SS and SS. However, this also doesn't really make sense. Unless rank A increases to rank A+, then to S, and then to S+. Still, I'm not quite happy with that thought. But if weapon rank represents the weapon level, it could be a good indicator to see which weapon needs the upgrade the most, without having to scroll through the list and compare the weapon level. So I think this is the more likely scenario. I have also tried to predict SP cost and growth materia count for the cores 4, 5 and 6, but there are just too many unknown variables and I didn't come to a satisfying conclusion, so I'll spare you the details and let's just move on. But I did come up with an important question. Are we even able to max out all the cores? And if not, are we able to reset SP spent to be able to spend them all over again differently? By not knowing about all the available skills beforehand, it would be quite crappy to have spent SP on skills that weren't as important as later skills we would have preferred over the other ones. I think the SP earned for each weapon will be just enough to max out a weapon completely. Every other scenario will probably just end in tears. Now all this talk and speculation and we still don't know where to get SP from. There's no indication for that whatsoever, so let's do some more speculating. Do we get SP by leveling up? I think that's too linear and too restrictive, and would also encourage grinding. Furthermore, as we can see later, we don't get SP by killing enemies. At least not from the enemies themselves. But what if the weapon gets 1 SP per killed enemy? It feels like the SP requirement is too low for this, and we'll end up with maxed out weapons way too fast. But I could be wrong. It all depends on how many enemies they throw our way. What about spending gil at the blacksmiths? I think that's too unpredictable and bad for balancing, and probably can be abused very fast, thus encouraging grinding again. It's also possible to get a set amount of SP per mission, be it mandatory or optional quests. This could be much better balanced and give an incentive to do them all. However, this makes the optional quest not so optional anymore. So in the end, I think grinding 1 SP per enemy kill still sounds like the best solution. But we'll see. Let's take a quick look at the backgrounds. In the Upgrade Weapons menu, we get a glimpse of the area Cloud stands in. We see some concrete floor tiles, which are also visible in the Sector 1 battle clips, published on the Final Fantasy VII Remake Twitter account. There's also a fence in front of us, keeping us from entering the storage area behind. Why a storage area? Between the weapon list and the Buster Sword details, we can see the front side of a storage container. Because of the amount of weapons in Cloud's inventory, we could be in the Sector 5 plate interior, the service area between the tunnels and the reactor. On the other hand, by looking at the playtime and gil, it looks like this is just a developer session with a doctored save state, adding some gil funds and especially a few weapons to show off the Upgrade Weapons menu. That's why I believe we're standing in Sector 1, since the floor tiles are pretty much the same and the background also looks quite similar. Now, there are 2 more details of interest. We see the direction and distance to our next objective in the compass display on top. However, instead of a number, it has 3 question marks. Either this is deliberate, or it's just a glitch due to the doctored save state. And right next to Cloud's head, we can see an indicator of an interaction point. It looks very similar to the one on Biggs in this train scene from the E3 trailer. It's also located on this elevated platform. Does this represent a jumping point? Now let's have a quick look at the Buster Sword upgrade screen. It looks like we're in a different plane of existence. Which is of course true, because we're inside a weapon. Different upgrade cores also look like floating atoms. And in the background, we also see the starfield imagery already represented in the menu screens. However, there is more. Do you see the numerous slivers of this repeating pattern? I think you've all seen this before. It's been a very prevalent pattern all through Advent Children, and even made an appearance in Crisis Core and on some Final Fantasy Mobius cards. I don't quite remember, but I'm pretty sure this pattern represents DNA or Genoa cells, which is also a huge deal in the Final Fantasy VII universe. And there's also one detail I forgot to mention before, and that's the fact that growth materia is essentially Lifestream, which is probably why we see Lifestream threads emanating from the complete core and Lifestream's world surrounding it. Also, this whole screenshot kind of feels very similar to Bugenhagen's planetarium, containing the sun, the planets, the circles, and later even the huge materia, though I'm not sure if this was intentional. Let's take a look at the newly released Japanese version of those 2 screens, which hit the web just after I finished recording the English ones. Nice timing, Square Enix! Anyway, since they're not exactly the same, we got a few things confirmed. Let's have a look. The SP calculation still holds up. Here in the overview, the player spent 38 instead of 40 SP. And if we look at the core upgrade statistics, that's 3 times 4 SP, 3 times 6 SP, and once 8 SP, which totals 38 SP, which is exactly the difference between 55 and 17. However, they are differently distributed, with a bigger emphasis on Core 2, which also leads to a different derived stat boost, which has a +5 on all 4 of them. Let's check out the next screen. Here, the player has only 5 SP left, which is also too low because the lowest remaining cost is 6. Curiously, the Japanese version shows the 0 underneath the completed core, whereas the English one shows nothing. When adding up all the unlocked skills, which are 4 times 4 SP, 3 times 6 SP, and 2 times 8 SP, totaling to 50 SP, which, when added by the remaining 5, results in the 55 we currently have. And the difference between the 17 SP and the 5 SP here also fits perfectly. There's one additional skill on Core 1 and one additional skill on Core 3, which is 4 SP plus 8 SP, equaling 12 SP, which is exactly the difference between 17 and 12. However, there's an inconsistency between the Japanese version of the screens. Just take a look at the defense stat of the Buster Sword. Here it's 0, whereas in the previous screen it is still 5. I'm pretty sure both screens don't stem from the same playing session. Everything seems to add up, but the player probably just unlocked a different core satellite in Core 2, raising HP instead of defense. And here in the Japanese version, it's even more apparent that we can unlock the big core before having to unlock everything else. Because core number 3 has only 2 skills unlocked, big one in the middle, most likely the additional materia slot, and the red magma ball, possibly increasing the maximum MP, since it looks pretty similar to the HP upgrade. We also see the 4 remaining skill satellites, displayed in grey. When checking the background, one theory I threw out there has already been disproven. The Aurora Borealis effect here seems to be quite random and not only limited to upgrade cores which have the center sphere activated. However, another prediction did come true. If we compare the position of the octagonal and the square pattern clouds, we see that they are different and therefore are randomly animated. Alright, besides confirmations, there are also a few new findings. Concerning rank, it's most likely tied to the weapon level, as there are no cores completed yet, which makes me quite happy because the lettering makes more sense this way. And with cores number 1 and 2 almost finished, and all 4 stats being boosted by 5, we can safely assume that core 1 focuses on attack, and core 2 focuses on defense, while both also increase the HP, as seen with the activated green sphere. What I also noticed is that the position of the individual skill satellites differ quite a bit between the versions. Which leads me to the conclusion that the cores here act like solar systems, which is yet another parallel to Bugenhagen's planetarium. And as one last thing, this has nothing to do with the Japanese version of the screens, but something I have been thinking about earlier today. Below the proficiency, it says proficiency bonus, stagger a foe. While I still think my initial assessment is correct, this could have another meaning, namely that the proficiency bonus written here only takes effect when proficiency is at 100%. Which means in this case that the focus thrust will stagger a foe immediately. However, I think this is a little bit overpowered, so I'll go with my initial assessment that staggering a foe just increases the proficiency gain. Be that as it may, with this speculation also ends our analysis for today. But before I let you go, I have to give a huge shout out to the residents on our Discord who helped me refine the analysis of the weapon upgrade screenshots. We've been talking for hours after the screenshot got released. Thank you guys so much for the phenomenal analysis. Alright, let us know if there are details we've missed, and please don't hesitate to speak your mind. Let's have a discussion in the comments and on Discord. The invitation link is also in the description below. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell button to be notified of future uploads, and don't let yourself stop from sharing this video around. That being said, thank you so much for attending this analysis, and I hope to see you again in the next episode of Game Analysis. And always remember, stay safe and take care. FFVII signing off.